Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox, and this is my coffee cup. Today, let's talk about solar. I have several solar systems. They all serve different purposes. They're all, in concept, the same. The one we're going to talk about today is this one for the workshop. And it is nearly identical to my home system, with the exception that instead of 2 panels, I have 4 panels for the home. And when we get to the batteries, instead of 8 batteries, I have, 16 batteries. But other than that, it's the same. All right, starting with the panels. These are 325 watts, meaning in ideal conditions with ideal sun, these should produce 320 watts of power. That is never the case. They never produce that much. No panels do. So if you get 1,000 watts of panels, you'll probably be putting out, 800 and something of watts. But that's that. Your panels ideally are oriented to face the sun all day. I gotta set my coffee cup down. And you want the sun to hit the panel at a 90-degree angle. And so if your panels could rotate, my east sun comes up there, they would be facing about like that because the sun comes up low, so it's a 90-degree coming in. And then as it moves through the southern sky and gets higher, they would track it and also back up a little bit because the sun gets higher, and again you want the rays to come down on it at 90 degrees, and then they'd go to the west and come back up. They make systems that do that, but the amount of solar that you gain, the amount of energy that you gain from tracking like that is really not worth it. It's not, in my opinion, it's not worth the money. This does just fine because it still makes solar, it makes electricity no matter how the sun hits it. An interesting thing that I learned, and everything I learned pretty much learned from Tim, each one of these actually has 3 strips in it. And a credit card size shadow over part of that will take out an entire strip. So instead of 325, you're getting 104 or something. No, 106. It's early. I've had 2 sips of coffee. Leave me alone. But it takes out a third of your panel. So you don't want shadows on your panels. Now the way this panel is currently set up, the sun comes up actually over there. So these are in shade until about, 10 o'clock in the morning, and the sun gets up here, unless it's a cloudy day like today. Clouds. Your panels still generate electricity on cloudy days. Oh yes, they do. Not the full amount, but they're generating. If I'd thought that it was going to be cloudy before I started shooting, I'd have looked at my home system. I'd tell you how many watts they're generating right now, and the sun is still below the horizon, but they're generating some electricity now. The modern panels are pretty cool. Okay, mounting your panels. I just made this 2x4 frame. It's nothing special. I made it kind of like a swing set. They're resting on that one on the bottom. And then I drilled holes in the sides of the framework of the panels, and I just put UV protective zip ties on. In here, whoa, just kept them neat and tidy. Here you can see my panel stuff for those of you who care. Synergy. Oh, 320 watts is what it said. You see that? I thought they were 325. Okay, 320. There you go. Now these produce power that comes down a cord, and I guess I'm going to set my coffee down. Move these for now. We're going to talk about all the questions I got heretofore from you guys. All right, sorry for that. So these produce power. It all joins together here, and then it comes into and up inside the building to a battery controller, which I'm going to show you. The battery controller decides how much of the power that's being produced by these panels it sends down into the battery bank. So it's reading the battery bank and deciding how much power to give it. That way you don't blow up your batteries by overcharging them. I guess I'll talk about one more thing. EMP protection. Solar panels are not that susceptible to EMP because EMP is actually going to affect the long power lines that run across the country, and there are long expanses that the electricity can get going in. And so number one, they're not that susceptible anyway. Number two, you can do things. One thing is to twist the wires. Every time you make a twist, it attenuates the EMP energy coming through. So you twist your wires. The other thing is, this is called a ferrite. It's a round magnet. And basically you run in a small loop, your wires through that. They make bigger ones for bigger wires, little ones for little wires. You have one on your laptop. That little cylinder on your laptop is a ferrite, and it's to protect noise. On your laptop, it's to protect noise from your laptop from affecting other things like TVs and stuff, but it does the same thing. It attenuates, so an EMP, that'll cut it down significantly also. Alright, so this wire goes to the battery controller. The battery controller sends another wire down to your batteries, and your batteries, in this case, these are Trojans. Can you see these? And I don't have my glasses on. I can't remember what they're called, but here's how big they are. And they are 6-volt batteries. These are Trojan 6-volt batteries. They're used a lot in solar applications. I think they're supposed to be golf cart batteries, but a lot of people use them for solar. And what's going on here is we have rigged 4 batteries together to be one battery. So this is a 24-volt battery, and this is a 24-volt battery. This is a 24-volt system. My house is a 24-volt system. We did that on purpose because I can now switch things out of the systems to help the other system if I have to. And so I'm not going into how to wire your batteries. This is not a tutorial on that. It's easy enough to find on the internet. But basically, we've hooked 4 batteries together and 4 batteries together. And then this cord right here goes all the way to that back corner, and that back corner, and then we have this opposite corner here. This is the positive part of the entire battery. 2 batteries go together to make a system. Positive end, negative end, that goes up. This little cord right here is a battery temperature sensor. You don't want your batteries to get too hot. And so, I think that's about all I need to tell you on this. Oh, let me stand up. Now, people say things based on knowledge they've read or heard elsewhere or something. Don't put your batteries on the ground. You'll ruin them. That's no longer true. Battery technology has come to a point where that doesn't matter anymore. Having said that, none of my batteries are on the ground. They're encased in plastic. I mean, it's a solid thing, but mine are sitting on a treated wood on the ground with then a shelf of just OSB that I had scraps of OSB laying around that makes a shelf. You want your batteries to be level because there's water in there that's mixing with acid and lead, and you don't want it at an angle, you know, one way or another. You want it level on that. So I made sure they were level with a level. They're off the ground just so they don't get muddy and I don't have to deal with them. They're really low. See how I have to bend down to get to them? Ideally, your batteries will be just below waist level, the tops of them. The ones in my house, I actually built a table for them. And that's because about once a month you need to take those caps off and you need to check to make sure the water levels are okay. And, you know, checking those is going to be a pain in the neck. I'm actually going to have to use a mirror. And then if I have to add water, I'm going to have to use a little squirter thing to get back there. So this is a temporary solution for me until I get the porch built on here, and then I'm actually going to mount the batteries up higher, probably under a trapdoor right under the porch, but the battery heads will be about this high at that point. So this is just what we had to do now. People talked about the batteries getting wet. Doesn't matter. It could rain on these batteries and the whole system would still work. No problem. Stainless steel screws, lead posts, stainless steel leads, copper wire, not a problem. The reason I have these here, these really nice boards that I've put up here, is to keep the sun off the batteries. And that one didn't work right. I'm gonna have to fix that. Hold on. Here's the thing. If your batteries get too hot, it kills batteries. It will ruin the life of your battery if they get too hot. If they get too cold, they just don't work well until they warm up. But it doesn't kill the battery. And so really you want your batteries cool. If you could keep them in a basement or something, that would be ideal. These batteries are going to be shaded. I gotta back up to do this part. I've told you guys this before, but I'm going to have a porch deck thing here coming out, and then I'm going to have a roof over top of that up here. I'm going to mount these panels up a little bit higher. This is kind of low. It doesn't affect the sunlight at all, but just trying to get around them and mowing and things like that, you don't want to throw rocks on it, and we have a couple rocks here on Shofar Mountain, so it'll be nicer once I get these up higher. Sure, you could mount them on a roof. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to climb up there with these big heavy panels and put holes in my roof and all that. So I'll probably mount them on this part of the porch, which will then provide shade to that part of the porch, which is where the batteries will be. That's my ideal. All right, so water doesn't bother them, but heat does. So that's really right now, excuse me, a temporary heat shade. Let's go look at the machinery inside. It's a mess still. All right. Oof. All right. Here's the stuff. Maybe I should open this so you have some more light. Okay. All right, there we go. All right. So I told you that the batteries come up and go into the battery controller. That is this right here. This is the battery controller. This is just a heat sink. And this thing tells you what's going on. And if you can see by that light, my batteries are looking good. They're all topped off and everything's a-okay. This is the one I use, the TriStar MPPT Solar Charge Controller by Morningstar, right? Is that who makes it? What does that say? I can't see without my glasses on. Okay, what we've also rigged to this is a lightning arrestor fuse. I could unscrew this, but this is an add-on that we put on, so that'll pop if lightning happens. And this is my fuse box right here. I have two different fuses, one here and one here, depending on which way things are coming. They will pop off. Here's another ferrite. Right here, it's a big magnet with the wires wrapped through it, so we have double protection. I can turn the whole system off here from the solar panels, and that's our temperature gauge just wrapped up, the piece that I showed you. And this right here is work I still have to do, grounding the system, and I'll talk about that when I go back down there. But we've got the ground hooked up, see this little copper wire, to the inverter, which this is really the heart of your system. This one right here is a 2000 watt inverter. It takes the DC power from the batteries and converts it to AC power that you can use in your house, and it'll do up to 2000 watts at a time. Now, if you want to talk about amps and all that stuff, you're going to have to talk to somebody like Tim who knows, because I just do what he tells me to do, quite frankly. I don't want to pretend that I'm an expert on all that stuff. It is look-upable. Many people know about it. I just don't like math, don't do well with math. All right, you can see these are twisted. And so what happens is The panels make the electricity. It comes to this charge controller. It decides how much to send back down to the batteries. Ooh, it's not really focusing down there. Then the batteries come back up. They go through these fuses. They flow up to the inverter, and the inverter is where you get your power. And you can either hardwire into it. Why are you not focusing? That's kind of annoying. You can either hardwire into it. Now let's try it this way, which I probably will eventually do, or you can just plug in right there. Right now in our house and in here we have not yet hardwired, but we will. We just use extension cords and then the little power strips and stuff like that. The system that you see here, the 2000 watts, will give me enough power to put a fan in here. You know, we're going to put more windows all in here like this so we can have cross ventilation. It'll let me put a fan in here. It'll let me put a shop light in here. And Tim said I could even put a small fridge in here if I wanted. I'm not going to. But I'm going to have a workbench here, so that's going to, I'll be able to use a table saw and a circular saw when the sun is out. They take a lot of power, a lot of juice from your batteries. And the thing I just learned on this trip with Tim, like we have an air conditioner now in our house, a little floor model. If you're going to take a lot of energy out of your batteries, you need to restore it before they go to sleep at night, before there's no more light coming. You don't want them to go to bed, my words, hungry. Because if you do, they start a chemical reaction, and that's bad for the batteries long term. So if you're going to do something with a lot of power that's really going to drain the juice on your batteries, you want to have some sunlight left over, a couple hours of sunlight to recharge the batteries before nighttime comes. So that, I think I answered all the questions. We had a brother who had a set of panels not this big on a frame not this big, and I told him, be careful, it's going to be windy and they might blow over, and he didn't do anything, and so this whole system blew this way. And it's Shofar Mountain, so it hit rocks. And it spiderwebbed one whole panel. And you know, it didn't really affect the ability of that panel to produce electricity. So that was pretty cool to see. They are pretty tough. But I have this one anchored. I screwed it over there to the studs, so it can't go anywhere. And this will probably be here for 6 months to a year, is my guess, by the time I actually get the porch built and the panels mounted again. And then it'll look a little bit different, but the system will be the same. Okay, so how to figure out how much you need. There is a way to go through all your appliances and say, okay, I have this appliance and it uses this much, and add that all up so you know how much electricity you need. We're going to take a walk now because I'm going to drink coffee and show you the other system, show you how to ground it. And then you figure out how many sunny days you're going to have and how many, more importantly, cloudy days you're going to have. How many of those items are you going to use at once? And the amount of items you're going to use at once is going to be your inverter, how much power you're sucking out of the thing at once. The amount of cloudy days that you're going to have is basically going to be your battery bank. How much juice do I need to keep stored to do the things I want to do even when it's cloudy out? And then the panels are based off of your batteries and the sunny days. I have to keep my batteries topped off. It's this many batteries. How many panels do I need? Okay, that's all well and lovely. That is so totally not me and the way I think about things. And so what I do is, I have this many panels. What can I do with them? And that's kind of how I approach it. I started my system with a $200 Harbor Freight system, which came with 3 20-watt panels. So that was 60 watts of panels. And remember, 60 watts of panels is what I had, and one of these is 320. We bought a trolling battery deep cycle battery at the auto part shop. We hooked that thing up and we were running a little fan, and we were running our charging our cell phones and stuff at will, and could run a light, and so that was really nice. An LED light. That's how we did it. And then I bought a 100-watt panel, and then I got another panel. It's like, oh, I need a different battery charger now because I have panels that will overpower my one battery charger, and I just started building from there. And like I said before, through the grace of a few different people, we ended up with this system. Okay, so I told you this is my house system. It's just twice as big as my shop system, but it's the same stuff, and it's the same inverter and the same solar charger and all that. Let me see, I guess I'll go this way. I don't really want to walk back here, but for you, I'll do it. The reason I don't want to walk back here is I don't have bug spray on. I don't want to get chiggers. Okay, so let's look at grounding. What we did, and I still have to ground that other system. You just put a clamp on the frame, the aluminum frame of your panel. Now you could drill a hole in there and wrap the copper wire through it and twist it tight, and that would work, but the problem is copper and aluminum create a reaction, and it'll end up corroding your frame, and so that's not good. So that's a stainless steel clamp. It's made just for this. You clamp it onto the frame, and then you put your copper grounding wire into that. And so that comes up, goes this way, comes over to this panel, and then it flows to my grounding rod right there. And you just clamp it onto the grounding rod, and then I have the same thing with the other one. So they're grounded that way. And then again, we've twisted the wires, and we have the ferrites on them. Where is it? I just saw it. Dun, dun, dun. If I had, oh, and we also have a fuse right there. That's another fuse. And that's a fuse. There's lots of fuses in this that you don't have to put, but you can easily add them. And so this thing is designed to go pop, pop when we have to. And I clearly haven't had enough coffee, but we have one of those round magnetic ferrites on this system as well. And I just don't see it right now, but we have it. So that's that. These panels are built to tilt. I've shown you this before. I stuck a 4x4 in the ground, a 4x4 in the ground, put this pipe through, made a frame, mounted it to it, so it'll spin back and forth. So in the summertime we can kick them back so they're more, with my hand, more like this, because the sun is higher in the sky, and in the wintertime we can put them this way because you want the sun hitting it for max efficiency. You want the sun hitting it at a 90-degree angle. So they're easily rotatable. I just have them blocked so they can't come any further down this way, and then I tie them with 550 cord, which, you know, backwoods gold, as George Jasper says. So that's my system here. And then it just goes to a battery bank that's twice as big as the one I showed you. I think that's about it. When there's snow on these panels, you should brush it off because that does affect the light gathering ability. So I come out here with a broom in the winter and brush it off. These panels don't really care what the temperature is. The batteries do. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So I built those little frames, but then they started rocking back and forth. So then I built these to give it more stability, the whole system, which it did. And then you don't want grass growing up in front of your panels because you have to deal with that. And so we're going to next year turn this into a strawberry bed because it looks like a bed frame, so it'll be a strawberry bed. All right, so that is the solar system. They're all pretty similar. This one in the middle we're going to move to the avocottage either this week or next week. And then the avocottage will have much increased capability. So that's it here from Shofar Mountain. That's our simple solar. If you have any questions, let me know, and hopefully Tim will answer them. All right, I'll see you out there.